Here we go. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to our August webinar. This morning is going to be an interesting one where we're going to be interviewing, well, rather Nicole Nel from our offices is going to be interviewing two strong female portfolio managers in our industry. Not that there are only two strong female portfolio managers in the industry. We know that our portfolio management industry is actually quite female dominated, if the likes of women in sectional title has taught us anything over the last 2 years. But we'd like to welcome Ruth and Leighshé. Thank you so much for joining us today. The interesting thing about both Ruth and Leighshé, if those of you that have joined us this morning are not aware, is that they have both studied towards their legal qualifications. And we are interested to know how they managed to achieve that while working full-time as portfolio managers. And we're interested to know how they're applying that in their day-to-day profession and what their plans are for the future. We do know that there are quite a few other portfolio managers in the industry with the same qualifications, either in progress or achieved, alternatively the same desires for these qualifications. And we are always about furthering ourselves in education, and our very own Nicole is going to be furthering her education in the new year, and she'll be telling us a little bit more about that. Before we get started on that, over to Carl. He's going to tell us a little bit about some forthcoming events and about a couple of the practicalities to keep in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do have some background noise, please do mute yourself. If not, you are welcome to unmute yourself and partake, and also enjoy the conversation, add to the conversation, and raise any questions that you might have. Carl, over to you.
Thanks, Linda. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Just a few things before we start. Please, like Selena said, if you can just keep your mic muted to avoid background noise. We are also hosting our third episode of our EUA series next week, Wednesday at 10 a.m. The registration links will be posted in the chat, as well as the links to the previous episodes. Not sure if any of you have seen the upcoming Pretoria Let's Get Physical event on the 20th of September at 8:30 at the Waterkloof Golf Club. But be sure to register and join, as there is limited space, and we hope to all see you there. The session is also going to be recorded and will later be published on our website and YouTube platforms. Please be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications to be notified when our future videos are posted. Please also don't forget to sign up to our newsletter to receive the latest updates in community schemes. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email. I will post my email in the chat as well. Thanks very much, guys. Hope you enjoy it. And I'm going to hand off to Nicole to start.
Cool. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm really excited. As Linda mentioned, I will be hosting this webinar, and this is my first webinar that I've hosted for TVDM consultants. So very excited to get started. I have the privilege of interviewing the lovely Ruth Grunder, the General Manager at PAM Golding Property Management Services, and Leighshé Hodson from Hodson Property Management, the Principal Managing Agent there. As Linda mentioned, these lovely ladies, for their sins, have embarked on their legal education while being property practitioners and managing agents. And I understand that quite a few people in the industry are considering maybe going and doing their legal education, maybe just a qualification in sectional title law, anything like that. But I understand there's a bit of hesitation. Can we handle it? Our plates are already so full with our jobs as managing agents. Like, where will we find the time to study towards our law degree or law qualification? But I think that Ruth and Leighshé, and I believe Michelle Blackbeard from Sandic Leuven Trust, who's also in a similar position to these ladies, hopefully she can give us some of her insights a bit later. So I was just hoping that they could give some advice to us and just share their insights on what it's been like on being in academia and studying towards their legal qualifications. Cool. I have had some questions prepared, but if anyone has any questions from the audience, please feel free to post it on the chat or ask it at the end when we are taking questions from the floor. Perfect. So I think that we're ready to start, and I'll just jump right in. So Ruth, Leighshé, ladies, how did you start your properties? How did you start your careers in property management? I'm not sure who'd like to go first. Ruth, I see that
Okay.
you are already on mute.
Yeah, I fell into it by default because I was trying to sell houses and that didn't work. I am not a salesperson at all. And then I ended up working for a developer and they were opening a scheme, and I decided best I start doing something about learning how to do being a property manager. And that's basically how I started. And that was, I was in property for about 2000 and I started with a developer at about 2006, and sort of it literally was by default that I fell into it. And then I got hooked.
And yourself, Leighshé?
Paddocks, and of course, when I met Professor Paddocks, and I realized that was my inspiration. I wanted to be
your calling.
far away from that, but that's what I wanted to be.
Perfect. Leighshé?
So the funny thing is, my exact wording to start up was going to be, I fell into it by default. Similar story. I was on honeymoon, didn't have a job, got a call for an interview with a managing agent, walked in, was the worst interview I've had in my life. It was probably 3 hours whilst she fielded calls and carried on. And I started working there. My husband was an accountant and he started working there after hours, trying to sort out 3, 4, 5 years worth of financials for each body corporate, which hadn't been done. And he saw an opportunity to buy into the company, which he did, and then decided he couldn't work with her because as he was putting out fires, so she was lighting them. And we bought the company, and well, here I am 27 years later, still doing the same thing by default.
Well, it's interesting considering both you ladies fell into it by default, and I'm sure that everyone on the call can agree today that you are definitely some of the most respected managing agents in the industry. So it's crazy. And also a funny story, I also happen to fall into this job by default and I love it as well. I also feel like it's my calling. So perhaps there's a golden thread running through everyone's property management stories here today. So the next question then is, how long were you in property management or a managing agent before you started studying law?
Sure, it was quite quick. When I was working with a developer, it was quite interesting trying to put all these dates back together again, but be that as it may, they were literally opening the scheme and I like to know all the answers. I've got a big mouth, so at best I had to go and study it. And I did the thing with Paddocks. I did his first one, which was specialist realtor. Then I did his scheme management. And by then you've done like the ABC of law pertinent to sectional title on 3 pages, like twice. I was like, time I did something about this. And literally Professor Paddocks really inspired me. And in that year, so 2008, I started on my law degree. It was literally, I was like, well, I better do this properly from beginning to end. Little did I realize it was going to take me 10 years, but yeah, it's just that passion. And I dealt with Professor Paddocks, Judith van der Walt, and Mike Addison in putting the scheme thingy together, and they were all passionate people and they were all extremely knowledgeable, and I felt like a bit of a, the loose one. So I thought, well, start at the beginning and hopefully you'll end at the end. That's how I did it. Well, I started.
Again, I've got a very similar story. I started off, I was studying part-time, took 10 years to do a BA degree, changed halfway through from criminology to law, and kept having children in between. So I'm a bit of a professional student. I always wanted to do law and kept saying, it's too long, it's too long. What am I going to do with it? I'm never going to be an attorney. And Anthony kept just saying, do it, do it. And on a day I was bored and I thought, I'm actually mentally bored. Let me just register for this thing. And that was 4 years ago, I think, 4 years ago. So yeah, I've kind of been studying all along. But law was where I wanted to be. And much like Ruth, I did all the Paddocks courses, and the legal thing grabbed me. I was just a bit too lazy to actually do that LLB and knuckle down to it. And before you open your eyes, you realize all these years have gone and I should have done it back then.
Amazing.
Yeah. I think that ties in quite nicely to the next question. For out of all the things to study, why go back to law?
go back to law.
Why not, for example, like a property studies or something like that? Why specifically an LLB?
Or psychology with all the crazy.
Yeah, or business
No, that's my
psychology
next
or-
degree. My next degree will be psychology, and I'm halfway there with what we.
As a managing agent, you already have a qualification in psychology, to be honest.
You're almost there.
And Leighé's criminology, because we also need
Yeah.
to know how these minds work sometimes. Very true.
Yeah. I don't know. I just wanted to have the answers, and I thought the law would give me the answers. Little did I know that law is equally grey anyway on a good day, but it's still
Just
gave
more questions.
Yeah, exactly. But you only realize that sort of like you're halfway through, and you realize you're not actually going to end up with a black and white answer because it ain't there. But
Exactly.
I wanted the answers, and I want to understand, and I just believed that was for me. I honestly didn't think of anything else.
I just found that I loved the legal side of sectional title. All this day-to-day stuff was just part and parcel of what we do, but the legal side, and I would sit with Anthony and we'd debate the Sectional Titles Act, and then the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act came in, and there was always this debate, and I loved the research. As I say, I always had an affinity towards law, and I think as a managing agent, people don't respect your opinion. They want it, but they don't respect it. They're happy to pay an attorney however many thousands per hour for an opinion to say exactly what you've said.
Yep.
But the minute you have those 3 letters behind your name, the whole dynamic changes. And for me, I was writing things out. Attorneys were replicating it, being paid for it. And I thought, really?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I'm sure Zelinda also has way more experience with this, but that is a common theme that I'm seeing across managing agents. I mean, so many managing agents are so qualified with their knowledge and their experience, and they know the Sectional Title Schemes Management Act, they know the Sectional Titles Act, they are very familiar with CSOS and all of their opinions, but unfortunately trustees just don't take their opinion. They just want to take it at face value. They think that they don't know anything, or they're happy to take your opinion when it suits them and it's going according to what they want to happen in the scheme. But as soon as you tell them, actually, that's illegal, they're not happy at all. So yeah, I think that a lot of managing agents feel that way. And I think that's why more and more people are moving towards trying to study for their legal qualifications in this field. So yeah, next question. What are some of the benefits of returning to academia to studying later on in life? I mean this question in the sense of not going to study immediately after finishing high school. So having some that work experience first, that kind of thing, having an actual adult life, that kind of situation, and then returning to study. What are some of the benefits do you feel?
Because it's a conscious thing. It's something you decide for yourself. You're not doing it for anybody else. You're way more disciplined, so it works. You're driven for yourself. Well, I found for myself. I mean, when I left school, I was just a bee's knees, and no matter what my father said, I should go and study. I got halfway through this and halfway through that, and gave it out because I was just too clever for my socks. So then, when you get to this sort of stage in your life, you maybe growing up. Growing up is optional. You don't always take that route. I decided that the law would work for me, and then you're more disciplined because you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for anyone else. This is just for me, myself, and I. And I found I had the discipline, and I wanted to do it, and so that it worked this time around. It was a long road, as I'm sure Leighshé can also say, but it was for me, and it made it much more manageable.
I absolutely agree with you, Ruth. And my thing is, I think studying later on in life, you're more motivated. It's harder. And certainly the brain battles to retain information. I think when you're younger, studying's a lot easier, but the motivation, you're just doing it for you. And I keep saying, I should have done this when Daddy was paying, but I messed around so much when Daddy was paying. And I think it's also the financial thing. You can't waste time. And if I look at my marks from 20 years ago versus now, it's like, I can't believe actually, I'm doing this, yes, because I want to do this. I'm not kind of, oh, whatever. So definitely the benefit is the motivation. And I think you've got more life experience, so you can apply what you learn. You've learned the application of things.
Yeah, especially in something like law, to have that real life experience is, I think, invaluable. So yeah. And then on the opposite side, what would you say were some of the toughest parts about studying while also having a full-time job, mommy duties, a life, I mean, in general? What would you say was the hardest part about that?
I think the most irritating about it all was that my son would do absolutely nothing and write his exams and get flying colors. Then I wanted to slaughter him. So that was probably the toughest part, watching him come in late at night, barely making his bed, going off to write his, and that would freak me out. For the rest, weekends, the only time, and it was hard because you had to block everyone out, but nobody was allowed near me between 9 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday and Sunday, because studying during the week was, I don't know if you managed to do it, Leighshé, but I certainly battled between meetings and getting to office early to get your wretched minutes done, etc., etc. Monday to Friday were a waste of time. Friday night was little drinks night, and Saturday, Sunday was, and Sundays were studying. And yeah, it worked. And it was tough. It's difficult because you have to just say, everyone else go away. And then, but also my son was studying, and there were times when we could actually sit around the same table and study, which was that was great. And when he got older, it was who was going to go to the Woolworths run to buy all the junk food to eat while you're studying.
All the study snacks, the cramming sweets.
I started to have a hell of a lot of weight, but anyway, we're working on that again. But yeah, that was because I can't do this, no, I can't do that. Obviously, you had to play.
Ooh. I think we might have just lost her.
Leighshé, do you want to pick up over there?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, the toughest part was to fit it all in, because this is not a 9-to-5 job. And also the exams are you're writing exams May, June, and October, November, and that's when most of your AGMs happen. Your February year ends and your June year ends. So for me, my kids suffered twice, because they didn't have parents at home during the week we were at meetings. And then on weekends it was, sorry, not available. But like Ruth, my son was doing his BCom through UNISA at the same time. And that was one of the reasons I got into law, is I was feeling bored and I got a bit of FOMO. He was all into this UNISA thing, and I was like, I need to do that again. So, but he just didn't do anything. And I was really dedicated to this, and I'd say, come, let's study. And he wasn't interested. And don't ask me how he passed, but he did. So yeah, it's really difficult. I was very, very lucky. I had a great boss. I mean, I worked for my husband. So that was, I got the time off, and he could keep the fort going. If I said, hey, Anthony, I need to study, or I have an assignment that I've done nothing about and it's due tomorrow, can I have the day off? So I was incredibly lucky I had that support. But I did find when it comes to clients and meetings and AGMs, it was a difficult act to balance, because you don't really want that disruption when you're studying for exams, because you have such limited time to cover that entire textbook.
Yeah.
And sometimes the first time you're actually seeing the work is 2 days before the exam. So
yeah, I can imagine the time, but I mean, on the back end, wait, we'll get to that a bit later. That's another question coming up a bit later. Cool. And then the last question that I have, just for yourselves, Ruth and Leighshé, has returning to study reignited your passion for academia? And do you foresee yourself studying a bit further in the future?
It's a coin I flick around. I mean, the psychology, I already said, yeah, I would like to do my master's, but I'm just not sure how to get there. So it's something.
Come on, Ruth.
Yeah, I know. If there's a way to do it part-time, then I must figure it out, because I'd like to. But yeah.
So Ruth and I just had this discussion offline before we came on. Nicole sort of lit a fuse there, and I started off saying I'm a bit of a professional student, so I actually just want to get finished. I mean, I just want to get finished, but I already keep thinking about the next thing.
Yeah.
So I've challenged Ruth to masters next year.
Yay!
Let's see how it goes.
Think about it. Think
No,
about
I'll look into it. Send me the info. Let's see.
it. Okay, cool. I will send you the
As long as
info.
I can do it in sectional title.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Look,
Wonderful.
the thought of it is always more exciting than the actually getting down and
Yes.
doing it.
Yes.
The
Well,
registering, the getting your textbooks, the looking at all the assignment questions, it's all great. And that's where it ends. So,
Yeah, no, the hours of the study.
Oh, yeah, I don't miss it, but I'm excited to learn. So let's
That's
just
the
say that.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the thing.
cool. So I think Michelle Blackbeard, I see that you are online. Would you like to switch your camera on and join us for a few questions, maybe? Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Cool, everyone. This is Michelle. She's currently a property manager at Sandick Leuven Trust, and she also has, I don't know if she's completed or in the process of completing her LLB degree as well. So I think a very valuable panelist to have in this discussion as well. Cool. So ladies, how do you feel your legal education has assisted you in your role as a managing agent and in the community industry as a whole? I don't know, Zelinda, you are first on my screen, and then Ruth, Leighshé, and then Michelle. So if you want to go that way.
Well, maybe as a bit of an introduction to Michelle.
Oh,
Michelle,
yes.
do you want to answer the question as to where you are in your studies and all those fun things?
Yes, so I officially ended the end of this year. I did an extension this year. I was also the same, going the professional student route. I've studied since after leaving high school. I did political science first and then decided to do my LLB. Also sort of landed into property management, sectional title by accident, and then found that combined with the LLB, that piqued my interest. So yeah, I'm very excited to sort of keep learning. I'm not sure if I'll ever stop. Or, you know, law also gets updated all the time. So you have to like keep up to date, and sectional title as well. I know, Linda, you also quite keen to, you know, you challenge the big guys, the CSOS and all of them. So I enjoy those sort of things. I find that very valuable, especially studying law, dealing with the things that we deal with on a day-to-day comes in handy.
Fantastic. So you'll also be done at the end of the year, which means you also need to join the challenge of doing your master's next year with the rest of the ladies. So I think that's very exciting. So Nicole will do the homework for you as to how to register, where to register, what it's going to cost and all those fun things. And then we'll do like a crowdfunding mission or something like that, I think, amongst them. And then we'll make sure that you all do relevant topics, and then we'll take the industry by storm. Fantastic. Lovely stuff. So to answer Nicole's question about, is it, just to summarize, is it how the studies have assisted with our role in the industry? Was that
how your legal education in particular has benefited you in your role in property management and things like that?
I very often say that I would have loved to end up where I am now without having done the years of study at university. And the reason for that is I feel most days that I learned more of what I know now in practice. But I also know that I would not have been able to get the opportunities that I got if I had not studied. I feel sometimes that the hours in classes doing subjects that I had no passion and no interest in and simply passed because my father was the one paying the bills, and the only thing he said to me every single evening at 7 o'clock on the ticky box outside my raised room was study, 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 and then handed the phone over to my mom, was that I needed to pass to make sure I didn't have to please explain to him. And that was criminal law and company law and all those fun things. And the hilarious thing is that the subject that really pummeled me, company law, was the one that got me my very first job at Pam Golding, because they wanted me to manage homeowners associations and I had company law. And that opened up, you know, a different thought pattern for me. And then I got involved in contracts, which I also despised at university. And then I got involved in property law generally. And interestingly enough, I failed property law in second year and had to repeat it in third year. So you never quite end up where you think you're going to end up. But as you mentioned earlier, that silver thread that continued through was sectional title. And I ended up there. And that was what, you know, kept me going throughout it. And I know that that studies opened my mind to every other aspect of what we do. So when we're consulting with someone, it is not only listening to one issue and running with it. It's listening to the entire scenario and asking 110 different questions to get to the right answer, seeing the right answer, the wrong answer, and, you know, a way around it. And like Ruth mentioned, looking at the gray areas and seeing where everything fits into each other and learning, constantly learning. But that doesn't mean that law is the only thing that is going to get you there. There's a lot of other areas of study, not even study, but practical experience that will enhance your profession as a property manager, as a property practitioner. You mentioned correctly at the beginning, Nicole. Thank you for reminding us about that. And I'm sure the ladies can agree, in your day-to-day life, you're constantly learning. And, you know, as cheesy as it might sound, sometimes I think that it's the school of life that is a lot more important than the university qualifications. And I always say that the day I don't learn anything is the day that I am going to go and retire. Hopefully I'll have enough money packed away for that, but we'll see. But yes, I think that the qualifications were most certainly useful, but it was the practical experience 99% of the time that I can really say has benefited what I do for the community every single day. Very long-winded answer, as only I can give.
Perfect. Cool. Anything else to add, ladies? Or do you feel similarly to what Zelinda has said?
I think the degrees definitely helped because of the way it made you think. So you read things differently. Yes, I always thought I understood the Sectional Titles Act, but you just add the extra layers in your little brain, which helps. Honestly, I couldn't afford to go and do my articles. So I often worry that I'm very blinkered because I'm very sectional title. I'm just on that horse and off I go. And I never gelled the degree by being able to do articles that might have brought it all together. And when you listen to other people, sometimes you think, oh, I never thought of it that way. But at least you've got something to bounce from and to understand things better and to argue. And I mean, I can argue with anybody. So it just gave me more tools, you know. So yeah, I do think it helps a lot. With Leighshé, where I wrote the letter, the trustees weren't interested, off it went to the lawyer who copied my letter onto their letterhead and charged them 1,000 odd rand or 2,000 odd rand. So you still get that, no matter how clever you think you are. But from a personal point of view, I definitely think it helps with getting to the almost generally correct answer.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also it gives you a broader overview, like Zelinda said. I mean, we, as managing agents, we deal with employees, we deal with contracts, we deal with everything. And it just gives you that edge to deal with employment law or labor law, or look at a contract and say to a trustee, but what about that clause? Or just to think further. You know, I think tertiary education generally teaches you to think out the box, and law teaches you to argue what if. So you look at a scenario and you say, but you need to look further than this. What if that happens? So let's add in a preventative clause. Or so, yeah, I definitely think in this industry it assists you. We're hit with stuff from, I mean, we're expected to be psychologists, lawyers, contract lawyers, employment lawyers, everything. Yeah.
So,
Sorry, Michelle.
Linda.
Over to you.
So yes, I totally agree with all of that. Of course, it seems a bit daunting if, as a property manager, you have to read the act, you're getting directives sent to you for comment, and there's a lot of legalese in there often. And, if you don't fully understand that, you're not going to challenge it. You're not going to say anything. You just go with it. Well, I find that, with that legal background, it does sort of empower you to challenge it because you understand a little bit more. So there's that. And of course, going back to, I think Ruth or Leighshé said it earlier about the trustees sort of respecting your opinion more because you've got those 3 letters after your name. Because I've had that in the past, same thing. Actually, Zelinda was involved where I gave an opinion. They were like, okay, cool. Let's hear what Zelinda has to say. And Zelinda did back me, and she said, Michelle did say it correctly. But that's the kind of thing that they look for. So it definitely assists you with your clients and understanding the documents that you read. It's very valuable.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for that, ladies. So for myself, when I was studying law, I realized that within the first few months, I didn't want to be an attorney. And then it it was like, oh my word, am I wasting my time? Like, what am I going to do? Because like what you said, Ruth, there was really nothing else I could study. I mean, I'm not great with numbers. So like anything BCom was out the question. I didn't know if I would be able to get enough opportunities with the BA degree. I was like, I might as well just stick with law. It's a good degree to have. I'll just field off all those questions of people asking me why I don't want to be a lawyer for the rest of my life. It's okay. And then I fell into my job now as a junior consultant at TVDM. And like I said, I love it. And I never, ever thought that I, like you ladies, would fall into this industry and enjoy it so much. So for ladies who have more experience in the industry, what do you believe? I believe to be beneficial, but what are some of the other benefits that legal graduates like myself who do not want to be attorneys and maybe are interested in property, like, do you believe that this is a beneficial industry to come into? Are there a lot of opportunities of things that they could do? Just love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Ruth, do you want to go first? Or Zelinda?
I think it's
We must think about it very wisely before we respond, ladies, because this is an opportunity. We're going to post it on Jobs 24 and make sure that the property industry gets lots of new interns for property managers. So we're going to clip this part and we're going to post it on everyone's behalf. Okay. All right. Off you go.
I definitely think it's beneficial for portfolio managers, property managers. It's hugely, it helps you to know and understand what you're doing.
But yeah, why would somebody studying law or property studies or even a tertiary qualification, why would they want to enter our industry?
You just enter it as a learning curve to give them experience. I understand they've got to do articles, all that good stuff, but say they want to become conveyancers or they want to be anything in the property industry. And I mean, how many conveyancers send us stuff that's wrong, or they forget to forum, the exclusive use area. They don't even know what that is. So, and I mean, that's a real fact. And they like to transfer stuff without getting levy clearance certificates because it means nothing to them. Managing agents, we don't really qualify as much in their eyes. And I think if they actually have done like a little stint through the management agencies, they would learn a lot, which would probably at the end of the day save them a lot of nonsense when they're doing their conveyancing or whatever, because they'll understand what they're asking for. They'll understand that they've got the wrong size on their POA, and no, it's not just it's wrong. So yeah, I think it would help a lot.
Yeah, Ruth, I'm so with you on that, and we all as managing agents see it every day, and I definitely think you have to have a passion for this industry firstly, But I also think as law graduates, it should maybe be part of articles or something like that, because exactly what you've just said is what was one of my thoughts is we so often get an opinion from a client's attorney and they take the sectional titles legislation completely out of context. They take a thing, or they'll say, you're not doing your job. These are your duties as a managing agent. And you look at it and you say, that's an executive managing agent. I'm not an executive managing agent. Please read my contract. It's almost like jack of all trades and master of none. And attorneys and a lot of people think sectional title is a breeze. It's not a breeze. There's a lot of legal issues here. And just because you are a qualified attorney does not make you a specialist in sectional title. I personally believe that some of us managing agents are way more qualified with or without tertiary education than a lot of the attorneys that we come up against. But I go back to our opinion is not respected because we are not attorneys. And yeah, I think graduates should enter this industry. I think it's not an industry that you can be in without having a passion. I would have liked to have done my articles and been an attorney, but it's too late for me in life. I think that's the kind of career you got to start right at the bottom, claw your way up.
Too late, Leighshé. Never too late.
You know, Nicole, this is the industry I know. I know sectional title. I'm comfortable in it. I have a passion for this industry. So to start at the bottom somewhere, and I would rather stay in what I know, what I love. And I think we have a love-hate relationship with this industry. You love it and you hate it, but it's in your blood. Yeah. But it's definitely something that there's a place for law graduates, even if they don't continue in this industry. Yeah. I think it will make them far better attorneys in general.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Michelle, anything to add?
I think the ladies have pretty much summed it up perfectly. We are very positive about it because obviously we are doing it. We see the benefits that they are, but of course it's not without its challenges, which was mentioned also in the beginning. So if you do have a busy schedule and you have to fit in studying, if you're doing it, while working, it certainly has its challenges, but it's so worth it because I would sit with an assignment or going through an exam and pick up something that I think, well, I could apply this to what I'm doing currently. And then I find a way to work that in. So I would certainly say everyone should, or that's not everyone, it's not for everyone, but if you're looking to further your career, like doing law within properties, that is incredible.
Wonderful. Cool. And then I just have one more question before we open up for any questions from the floor. What advice would you give to someone on the edge of making that jump into studying law as someone who is working full time?
Jump, shut your eyes and jump.
Do it. Just do it. Before you know it's over. Just do it.
Yeah.
Tick away at it, slog at it. You open your eyes and your 4 or 5 years are over.
Exactly. That's the thing. Goes so fast.
Perfect.
And if you're not sure, sorry, Zelinda?
Drink less, study more.
No.
No, you need to drink when you're studying. You just got to put it in the right time zone.
You keep the drinking for when you study later on in life. So I'm just taking the advice from there. Michelle?
Are you asking me specifically about the drinking?
No, I'm asking you for your advice.
I would also say absolutely do it. You will definitely find it beneficial. So yeah, prepare for some hard work and less time with your family, friends. You have to learn to balance it, and especially if you're doing, via correspondence, like I did mine through UNISA. It is a bit challenging. So you're going to have to be disciplined, but if you can do it, I think absolutely you should.
I also think if for anybody who's sort of not too sure whether they can or they can't, I mean, just try it out with a dispute resolution course or mediation, or because that is so useful in our industry. I mean, UCT does quite a nice postgrad diploma in dispute resolution. It's a year's course, and it really it's very useful in our industry, and it is a legal stream.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Great idea. Great idea. Fantastic. I think a couple of property managers must reach out to the local universities across the country when they have those lovely open days. So to attract these students, you have to have something free on your table. So good pens and good stress balls and things like that is always a winner. And then you need to just, let them know that this industry actually exists. And that way we're going to encourage them to go there, because firstly, there are students that are studying law that don't want to do their articles. I was one, Nicole was one, I'm sure a lot of our mates were as well. There are also only certain amounts of positions available. So not every single law graduate is going to get a position of articles. And life happens as well. Something happens that you're not able to apply in time, or you were too late to apply, or, your marks weren't good enough, or you had to repeat a subject or anything along those lines. Sometimes somebody is just looking for a little bit of work experience. And the one thing that I can say is when I was applying for positions, everybody wanted, even articles, which was hilarious because articles is your first step into the working world after university. They still wanted to know what work experience you had. And I was fortunate from the age of 7, I used to work with my parents in their supermarkets and things like that, but I couldn't put that down on the CV. Who believes that you're actually going to work for your parents? So I had to say 0 work experience. And I got my first position from Pam Golding, from Mike Murray at the time, and he gave me an opportunity. I had no work experience. That was my work experience. And I remember him saying, you're overqualified for the position, but if it's yours, you can have it. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people that simply want that opportunity. If it's going to be for a year, if it's going to be for 6 months, if it's going to be for 2 years, whatever it might be, it is such valuable experience. And it's assistance to your companies as portfolio managers and property managers as well, property practitioners, sorry. There is nothing wrong with introducing youngsters, or not even youngsters, wherever they are in their walks of life in this industry, to have an opportunity to see what it's like, because you never know, you might ignite that spark in them that after they're done with their articles, after they're done with their studies, they might come back and they might be the next big thing, the next, what did you call it, Ruth, bee's knees or whatever you said? Yes. So that's just a little word there, like always make space for them. Intern, they get paid very little doing articles, so you don't have to pay them too much either. So just make a little spot for
They're
them.
good people. We've had some really, really nice students through this office. They're good, they're great, they are fantastic. They've got they used to study and structure and whatever, and they come here, and we've had a couple of, and they're wonderful people, and they, I'm sure they learn from us and we learn from them. It's a win-win situation. They're fantastic. They really are.
Yeah, definitely. Fantastic.
Well, I've just said to Zelinda that I'm definitely going to be writing an article on how people in our industry can further their studies. So I'll put all that information in that article, and then it'll be available for everybody, should anyone be interested. I don't know if there are any other questions from the floor, anything like that. I can't see any in the chat. So yeah. I would just like to say thank you so much to you ladies this was extremely insightful, especially for someone like myself, who I mentioned before we kicked off. I will be starting hopefully my LLM studies next year, which will be a full-time, but in the evening classes. So I'll definitely have to sharpen my time management skills and some sacrifices in my life, but I'm absolutely ready to do that. I also love to learn, so I'm ready to carry on my professional student journey as well. And interestingly, Leighshé, one of my electives I'm going to be doing is mediation. So, because Zelinda and I have spoken about this a lot, there's a huge call in our industry for those internal dispute resolution processes, because it's not always viable to go to the CSOS. Sometimes CSOS can't help with that dispute, and the body corporate sometimes shouldn't, necessarily get involved. But as soon as someone has, Tony, perfect, someone with mediation experience, as soon as someone has that mediation experience, it just makes the situation so much easier. The managing agent can just facilitate those processes so much better. And I think it also puts a lot more trust in your role as a property practitioner / managing agent to be able to handle those kinds of situations without having to say, oh, let's just go make an application at CSOS kind of thing. So those are my dreams in the near future, and I'm very excited for it. So yeah.
I definitely think, Nicole, the dispute resolution, it gives you so many skills and techniques to be able to deal with these feuding clients. I think that's the word, feuding. Yeah.
Yes.
And we deal with that on a daily basis. So we are expected to be mediators. Whether you're dealing with something that's as large as what could possibly be a CSOS dispute or not, every day we're dealing with two owners having a go at each other, or trustees and owners. And so that's a huge benefit, that dispute resolution and mediation.
Perfect. Yeah, I completely agree. I also forgot to mention that I think a lot of people will be excited because as part of my master's, I'm also focusing for my dissertation on CSOS compliance and how they are not 100% compliant in terms of the CSOS Act and other empowering legislation. So I think it's a bit risky, but a lot of people have told me to go for it and do it. So that'll be quite exciting, I think. I also just see that there's a question in the chat. I work for a managing agent, but I've not studied property. How do I get into studying to be a property practitioner? I don't know if you ladies would like to run with this.
Ruth, you're pretty good at all the NQF questions and things like that, if you want to answer it.
Well, basically, it's all dear macabre, but I was it was closed off years ago, but I did the NQF 5 because at the time that I had to do it, I was a principal agent, so I could do the NQF 5. But I think now you have to start with the NQF 4 to get your registration and then do all those CPDs. So basically you have to get your NQF 4, you've got to do your logbook, you've got to do this, that, and the other, and then you do the NQF 4, you hand it all in, and then you're registered as a professional. You may have done the exam already or not. If you haven't done it, then you obviously would have to do that. And then you would be registered, and you've got to do your CPDs every year. And they're actually quite organized. It comes up on their website. You just go to, you've got your own little portal, you go in there and you do the 3 or 4 CBD sessions. You've got to get 15 points a year, and there's a cycle, and then every 3 years it falls away. With the new act, there could be some changes. Not 100% sure, but they've been threatening that if you haven't done your CPDs, you won't get your fidelity fund certificate. Well, I don't know that that's happened yet. But yeah, you just literally, once you've got all your ducks in a row, then you just continue with your CPDs every year, and it's all up on their portal. So it just takes about an hour and it's done.
Fantastic. Maybe that's something to add to that article, or a part 2 of that article, Nicole. Definitely an idea. And this is a little bit.
Just confirm what's required now in terms of the new act.
Yes.
The old act.
Yeah, I know you knew that back to front. And then they went to go change it on you, damn it.
Yeah.
A little bit off topic, but Michelle, maybe you can answer this for us. Are managing agents happy to only answer owners' questions if trustees have not given permission?
Perhaps you can elaborate a little bit.
So if will the managing agent answer an owner's question if the trustee has not given permission to the managing agent to answer that owner's question?
Okay, I haven't been limited where trustees have said, I cannot answer a question. I do take it part myself if I feel comfortable doing so, because obviously we do know the act a little bit better. So a lot of the times the trustees will actually expect you to answer those sort of questions and leave you to it. Only when you need, trustees' permission to have certain works done, I would certainly not go about and answer that on my own. But Yeah, no, the trustees are busy. I mean, they of course have day jobs themselves, and this is what we do. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Ladies and gents, we do have a couple of minutes left. So if you have any questions or any comments or anybody that is interested in studying something and you want a little bit of motivation to do it during your day job, please feel free to unmute yourself and raise it now. I know that there are two very special people in the audience today. Nicole, I'll hand over to you.
Yes, I just wanted to, if anyone has any questions, I'll obviously answer them, but I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us on my first webinar. And I also just wanted to say thank you to my mom and my aunt and my gran for joining. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was really special to have everyone here. And I also wanted to obviously thank all of our speakers, Ruth, Leighshé, Michelle. Thank you so much for participating in this discussion. It's quite clear that there's a huge interest in people studying further in our industry, and I think you've answered a lot of their questions quite well today. And hopefully with my article, we'll see a lot of people registering to go and study a bit further.
Good luck, guys. You should do it.
Definitely.
I just
sorry,
I just want to say that I think we have some really great inspiration in this industry. Zelinda, you being one of them. I mean, you've always been my inspiration from your paddock days, and it's great to see women that are focused on this. I mean, you're a huge inspiration in this industry. So, you know, for those of you who are considering it, look to Zelinda. I mean,
absolutely.
Too sweet. Too sweet. Don't make me cry. I'll when Nicole said she was going to invite some of her folks, or her mom and her aunt and her gran, I said, oh, please do. I remember the first time I invited my parents to a live event that I went to go speak at. Oh my word, I was so nervous. I literally couldn't even remember my own name, let alone like anything to do with the legislation. I remember I didn't care that there were like hundreds of people in the audience. It was my mom and my dad sitting there. I was like, I can't mess up. I cannot mess up. They're not going to think that I know anything that I'm talking about. So really cool that they joined us today. Thank you so much. Ladies and gents, I'm going to stop sharing the recording at this point in time, but please feel free to hang around for a couple of minutes. And Ruth and Leighshé and Michelle, if you don't have anywhere to go, we'd like to have a chat with you afterwards. But on that note, thank you so much for your time. Please do have a look on the chat function before you leave as to our upcoming events. Don't forget that we've got a couple of physical events coming up if you're not based in Cape Town. But if you are based in Cape Town, the next physical event is going to be the NAMA National Conference, where you'll get to see a couple of us there. We're very, very excited about that. And then, of course, we'll see you again at our September webinar. We are also working towards, Carl, I'm sure that you'll market it very, very soon as we have it confirmed, at getting a bit of an interim webinar going on the tips and tricks of having a successful adjudication presented by none other than an actual adjudicator. So that is something that is going to be quite keen on being looked forward to in the future. So ladies and gentlemen, on that note, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to stop the recording right there.